Drivers and transport workers represent the second highest percentage of work-related cases of COVID-19.
More than 120 transit workers have died in the COVID crisis.
We need hazard pay. We demand hazard pay. Transit workers and all MTA workers deserve it. So in order to have a vibrant, healthy transit system, we need transit workers. And in order to get transit workers back to work, there needs to be an incentive, and hazard pay is a good incentive for them to come back. We've succeeded in winning some form of hazard pay at several properties because of the leadership of our local offices. Hazard pay is a demand, and we intend to keep pressing for it, city by city, employer by employer, across all transport sectors. When the response to the TWU is that the hazard pay is not in the budget, neither was illness or dying for frontline transport workers. Budget lines actually give great insight to where the morality of an employer is and to how the employer views its workforce. The MTA is still refusing to acknowledge that they have an obligation as the employer to pay hazard pay. They keep kicking this back to the federal government. If the federal government rejects this congressional bill that includes hazard pay, then the obligation falls upon the MTA.
The right and moral and economically appropriate thing for the MTA and the city and state of New York to do is for the federal government to fund it, and I think that ought to be our mutual goal.
But if they fail, we're coming looking for you.
John, I understand.
Our whole political operation in Washington has been geared toward transport sector funding, not only the MTA, but the airline industry and the railroad industry. Everything that moves, we've been advocating for funding. That HEROES Act was lobbied for extensively by not only the TWU, but our brothers and sisters in labor. It provides a further bailout for the transit industry, a uniform set of health and safety standards that must be abided by our employers. That is something that we've advocated very strongly for, both in the Senate and in Congress and at the Department of Transportation. In this forthcoming legislation, there's hazard pay. It's $13 an hour on top of your regular salary. The least that this government could do to honor the blue-collar Americans that have led the fight against COVID-19 is include this $13 an hour hazard pay.
As the MTA prepares to reopen subways and restore service to pre-pandemic levels, the union representing subway and bus workers has a list of demands.
Local 100, along with the International, put out a 10-point plan on what a reopening would look like and what the employer should be required to do. A lot of it is enshrining elements of the pandemic response as permanent elements of public transit, a encapsulated bus operator area, train crews be similarly segregated from the riding public. Local 260 in Houston, Texas, has developed, along with our sister union, the Amalgamated Transit Union, a set of demands, the demand for consistent PPE, consistent decontamination and sanitization of the system. We're now working with Local 291 and Local 234 in order to put out similar reintroduction of service plans. We encourage every local out there to reach out to us and work to develop similar demands before restoration of service happens. Lives are on the line.
The union hasn't said what it will do if the MTA does not meet its demands. Its president, John Samuelsen, has appeared in Zoom meetings recently with a baseball bat prominently placed in the background.
As crippling as this has been physically, emotionally, economically, could some good come out of this?
Certainly a good thing is that workers across this country have come to understand that when they lock arms and stand together, they can defend their health and safety, they can defend their livelihoods. That's going to lead to an emboldened workforce in America, and in my mind, that's certainly a good thing.
JetBlue says it'll block off middle seats into early July to help fight the spread of coronavirus. The company says the policy has been extended through the July 4th holiday. Now, as for planes without middle seats, the airlines will block aisle seats.
When an employer does something that is good for workers, we don't mind saying, hey, thank you for stepping up and working with the union to accomplish that. We've accomplished good things by working with JetBlue to identify mitigation methods in the workplace. That's the path forward. Transit properties, railroad properties, utilities, universities, school buses, and airlines. These are the type of conversations that we want to have going forward. What is the best way to protect TWU members?